we started only 5 years ago, the business. It's grown, 50 to 100% year on year. We're the second biggest behind Steam in terms of online downloadable PC games. And we started on the cloud, we continued on the cloud, and we're still on the cloud. And there's no part of our business that isn't cloud. So I guess different to most other companies, we start with a blank sheet of paper. And when you start with a blank sheet of paper, it's a very different question to when you've got lots of legacy IT and lots of servers and server rooms and firepower in-house. It wasn't like that for us. We said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're moving towards. What are the best tools for that? And the best tool for us was cloud. In terms of our cloud journey, it became clear that we would need to build a website and an infrastructure behind it that was resilient, that was able to cope with spikes and peaks. The peaks are kind of easier in a way because you can predict them. A spike is almost impossible to predict. When do 10,000 gamers decide to come to your site at the exact same second because someone made an announcement about a game being available? And because you can't predict that, the ability to get the kind of ability to be elastic and to be able to cope with this incredible amount of demand in an incredibly short amount of time, the cloud is the obvious way to cope with it. It's the only way to cope with it, actually. Initially, I guess, and I wasn't around when we first started, but initially, I guess it was about cheaper hosting, not having to have a server room and server space and etc. etc. So let's do it all on the cloud. When it became about really ramping up our sales and ramping up the amount of customers we have online, it became even more imperative. And at that stage, you're saying, well, you want to be able to scale, you want to be able to handle all those customers without falling over. And then it becomes even more imperative. And of course, then you start looking at other things. You start looking at the databases that you're using, and you start looking at different open source technologies, and you start looking at, when we bought Playfire, which is the Facebook of gamers, which is our social network, all of a sudden we've got another 1 million plus users that are hitting our site on a regular basis. And these people are not just looking to go through a normal customer journey of a shop. They're looking to interact with the site. They're looking to post comments on the forum. They're looking to find out how they're doing on their different games, looking at gameplay activities, talking to their friends, etc. For this, you need even more firepower, or different firepower at least. It's a challenge, but it's never a question of, oh well, let's go build a server room downstairs. It doesn't even come into the picture. Hybrid cloud, I think, is important for certain organizations. In fact, for most legacy organizations, it's almost the starting point, because you don't go from non-cloud to cloud. You go from non-cloud to hybrid cloud, and potentially then you're moving on to cloud.